Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from normal. Where I normally focus on canon or history, today I'm going to be talking about the question of what if Toga survived his fight with Takemaru. This video is mostly just for fun, it isn't meant to be taken seriously, so let's just try and enjoy it. If you enjoy what if videos and would like to see more in the future, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. You can also let me know in the comments what other situations you would like me to take a look at. You can also check out the description down below for links to my Discord, my Patreon, and my Twitch, if you're looking to be a more active member of the community, or just support the channel a bit extra. Finally, you can also follow me on Twitter at AxelBeats. But with all of that being said, let's get into the video. Now when we look at how Toga living would have affected the story, there's definitely a few characters that stand out as things we have to focus on. For example, we probably need to spend some time talking about his two sons. We could talk a bit about Zero and Kiremaru, but I don't think that we know enough about what they want to do yet to actually make that a relevant discussion, so we're gonna basically cut out Yashahime for the most part here. That said, the ripple of Toga not being dead is going to expand way beyond what you might imagine, and I'm pretty excited to get into it. So right off the bat, let's start with something that would drastically affect the power levels of both of his sons. And that's the fact that Toga didn't leave his two swords to either son until after he died, with Tenseiga going to Sesshomaru and Tessaiga going to Inuyasha. Now for the most part this shouldn't affect Sesshomaru too much early on, he should still be a badass, and he didn't really use his sword for a while anyways. It's not like the Tenseiga was a big power buff before he knew how to use the Medo. However, to say that the Tenseiga is a very influential factor on Sesshomaru's life would be an understatement. Without the Tenseiga he would have never been able to revive Rin, but it actually goes way further back than that, as it was only because the Tenseiga brought him into that forest after he was injured that they ended up crossing paths. It is next to impossible to imagine them meeting if the sword was out of the picture. Furthermore, he wouldn't have been able to revive Goshinki's head without the sword, and boom, even Tokijin's out of the picture. He could still have gotten the Bakusaiga at some point, but who knows if he would even reach that point in this version of the story. Now, rather than Sesshomaru's journey to get the Tessaiga from Inuyasha, he would still be on his path to try and become stronger and eventually overtake his father, which, yes, I would pay good money to watch that fight go down, but we're talking about swordless Sesshomaru versus Toga with Tessaiga, the Medo, and Sounga. It just isn't a fair fight if he doesn't have the Bakusaiga, right? Now what I consider to be the more interesting half of the story is Inuyasha's version of it. Inuyasha and his mother lived fairly peacefully for a few years after Toga's death. Even if Inuyasha was bullied a bit for being a Hanyo, for the most part they were safe at least. Now this might have changed a bit if Toga was around though, whether they lived with him or were separated like most demons seem to do, but I can't really see him leaving Izayoi or baby Inuyasha alone too often. I'm not sure if they would actually live together, but I would assume that Toga would visit fairly regularly based on his personality. Yes, he didn't get along with Sesshomaru, but I feel like that's more Sesshomaru's doing than Toga's, you know? However, there would be a point where Izayoi would pass away. It's not like they were attacked by demons or anything, she just kinda died. It happens to humans, right? And here is where the biggest division in the story would most likely happen. Inuyasha's main journey in the canon is that, well, he didn't feel like he belonged anywhere after his mother died. He couldn't be with demons because they would attack him, and he couldn't be with humans because he didn't belong there, right? However, in this version, he has his father still alive. There's someone that he can rely on, and there's somewhere that he can go. Now this inadvertently leads to two big changes. One is that Inuyasha wouldn't have Tessaiga because, you know, Toga's alive. But without that, there's nothing to keep his demon form in check. Most likely at some point he would go on a small rampage, Toga would subdue him, and then probably give him the Tessaiga anyways to steal it like they did in the actual story. And this could probably start Sesshomaru's journey to try and take Tessaiga from Inuyasha so he had a chance of actually fighting his father, not knowing that he can't even hold the sword. Now this would kind of reproduce the dynamic that Sesshomaru and Inuyasha had in the first place, but most likely Toga would stop his sons from fighting too much, and he might even offer Sesshomaru the Tenseiga to kind of balance things out, though Sesshomaru might turn that down as it's not the Tessaiga, and it might affect his pride by taking the second best option. Now there is one big part of the story that you probably noticed is not there yet, and that is that he has a place to go, so there's no reason for him to look for the Shikon Jewel. And as such, Kikyo never comes into the picture. Kikyo would still have the jewel, she was given it by the Demon Slayers, but her curse from Tsubaki would have never come into effect. For those who don't remember, Tsubaki cursed Kikyo so that if she ever fell in love, her powers would begin to fade and she would end up facing a violent death. In this version of the story though, she never fell in love and would remain immensely powerful and capable of slaying just about any demon that came her way, but what would happen when it wasn't a demon who came for her? In the original story, we saw Onigumo sent Rasetsu and his men to go kill Kikyo and take the jewel. However, Inuyasha was the one to fend them off. Kikyo does a lot through the series, some less than wholesome, but killing humans has never been one of those things. Yes, she would take their souls, but it's not like she would go out and do the old stabby to give the soul to herself. And again, that only happened after she was reborn after dying. But even in the case of the very evil Onigumo, she nursed him back to health rather than letting him die. Furthermore, Kikyo was tired. By the time Inuyasha showed up, she was already exhausted with her duty. She was looking for a way to be free and chose not to kill Inuyasha. We can also look at Nenokubi, who was sealed away because she was getting to the point where she just didn't want to kill things anymore. In the original story, Inuyasha stopped Rasetsu's men, and the enraged Rasetsu blew up the inn that Onigumo was staying at, and this led to him being burned and paralyzed, but his men likely wouldn't have been slaughtered in the way that they were before, so he probably wouldn't have gone to such extremes. Onigumo wouldn't have been in the state that he was in, and he would have never had to become Naraku. This can cascade into the future with no wind tunnel, the demon slayers being alive, and so on and so on. All the fucked up things Naraku did wouldn't have happened. Now that said, I wholeheartedly believe that he would have eventually gotten the jewel. Between Kikyo's exhaustion and Onigumo's tenaciousness, greed, and sneakiness, it's almost guaranteed that he would have had some way to get the jewel over time. And with the jewel in his hand, Onigumo would have caused unbelievable chaos and destruction. However, he would be significantly weaker than Naraku was with the jewel. You see, the spider never came to the burned Onigumo. He never had to fuse with the demons to become Naraku or a Hanyo, and he wouldn't have been a supercharged poisonous spider demon that he became. Instead, he would just be a supercharged human. And just like all the other humans before him to hold the jewel, and just like Mr. Centipede, someone would have eventually come to take it from him, and the cycle would just continue. Remember, the jewel works as a kind of multiplier, it's not a source of infinite power. Interestingly here, Kikyo has never met Inuyasha, which means as she died, she would have never made her 3 wishes on the jewel. She might have wished to have a normal life, so maybe Kagome would still be born as her reincarnation, but if Onigumo was the one to kill her, he wasn't exactly going to do what she wanted and, burn her body with the jewel, meaning it wouldn't have followed her into the afterlife or into her reincarnation. And she certainly didn't make a wish to meet Inuyasha again because they hadn't met in the first place. This all means that Kagome would never come to the past. The simple act of Toga being alive and giving Inuyasha somewhere to go after Izuyoi dies changes every single factor of the show, and the only thing I could think of that would really be more influential is if the jewel hadn't been created. But there you have it, my first attempt at a what if video. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and if you guys do, maybe I'll make more in the future. And if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Again, this was just for fun, not meant to be serious, and I am looking for suggestions for future what ifs, so leave those below if you can think of any. You can also consider checking out my Discord, follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/ExcellianYT, and of course, as always, a big thank you goes out to our Patreon, with our Dai Yokai Aikerochu, Jacob Wiley, and Iffy Babes, our Yokai NL Cruz, Blood Wolfmon, Jamie Heck, Joker Rose, Lucifina Akuma, and our Hanyo, Anthony Hogan, ICE, Wallow Cum, Kiwi Dog, Love the Kiwi, Michael Grayco, Nega Kitty, Samantha Olsen, Savage Camel, Simon Electric. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember to stay excellent.